Hi there, everybody. Pastor Travis here, and it looks like I'm wearing a candy cane tie. But if you can see the bottom of it, it's got the Statue of Liberty and the stars from the flag. So, yay, 4th of July. I had a lot of fun hanging out with you guys last night, and I'm glad you guys got to see Noella. She's getting so big. And Elsie had a fun time too. Love that pool. And just being able to see everybody face to face was just really, really nice. This morning we are in First John chapter 4. So down here, First John chapter 4, and I am reading from one of the NIVs, the New International Version from here, and we are going to actually talk about the Antichrist today. Now, we're not going to get into all of the details of things that are to come and who the Antichrist might be. No, no, no. We're going to talk about something much more useful, the spirit of Antichrist. We can all be guilty of having the same attitude as the Antichrist, as the devil, and as the people who reject Jesus. And that is the point this morning, is that uh, in America, we are free to believe whatever we want. That means the federal government is not going to tell us what we have to believe. But God and His universe run as a dictatorship, and we are supposed to worship only God. And when Jesus shows up, He is God. We're supposed to worship Him. And everybody who has a problem with that is in rebellion against God. And Jesus still died for the people who reject Him. Jesus died for all of us who have sinned, who have done bad things, who have at some point decided, hey, I doesn't matter what Adam and Eve did and what sin I've inherited. I have my own sin. I want to hang on to my own sin. There are attitudes that I have that are very difficult to let go of, and I'm not perfect, and you guys aren't perfect, and you guys have been told all about self-esteem and how you've got to love yourself, but the Bible tells us, there's a lot to love about you, that you are made in the image of God, but something went horribly wrong. And so we are sinful people, and we need to acknowledge that. We need to be grown up enough, mature enough to say, you know what? I'm not perfect. I'm not even, a lot of times I'm not even good. And I can say that about myself as well. Um, but Jesus has been working on me a long time. And when I am faced with these attitudes and things, hopefully, I bow myself down before the God of heaven, and I ask Him to forgive me, and I ask Him to help me. And someday I will be perfect. Unfortunately, it won't be in this life. But I will learn a lot of things in this life that will shape me into being more Christ-like, more Jesus-like in the next life. And so, 1 John chapter 4, dear friends, starting in verse 1, dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. There are a lot of lies out there, guys, and we're seeing a lot of them now. And we got to discuss a little bit about what you guys know about American history. I don't care if you know dates and times, but I would love to sit you down and just teach you all about how awesome it is to be America. Yeah, we've made some mistakes. Yeah. In 1776, Thomas Jefferson wrote that all men are created equal and endowed with their Creator with certain inalienable rights, such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But there were people that wanted those things to apply to them, but they didn't want them to apply to their own slaves. They didn't want to be slaves to the King of England, but they didn't want to admit that those same ideas meant that they couldn't own slaves themselves, some of them. Some of them were already fighting slavery at the time. But anyways, there are lots of false ideas out there. How do you know which is the right one? Well, according to this, verse 2, this is how you can recognize the Spirit of God. Now, this isn't a test for all right and wrong, but whenever someone tells you something spiritual, someone tells you something about God, you might want to ask them this question. Every spirit that acknowledges that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. But every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard is coming, and even now is already in the world. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard anything about the Antichrist, but a lot of Christians believe that someday there is coming this really, really super bad, evil ruler who's going to set up a one world government, and he's going to seem like a really nice guy, but eventually his true colors will show, and he is actually an agent of the devil. We're not talking about that necessarily. I want you to think of something that terrible, okay? I want you to imagine the people rioting right now actually succeeding in burning America to the ground and putting their own leader in place, and everything is terrible, okay? Imagine that. Now, what John is telling us is the spirit of that kind of thing is already here, and that's 2,000 years ago. And you can be on the side of the Antichrist instead of on the side of Christ. If you accept Jesus, you're on the side of Christ. If you are Antichrist, well, then you're on the side of the Antichrist. And so, somebody's walking by. I bet you we're going to get interrupted. Oh. No, he's not, but I'm going to set up for him in a second. I'm in here making a video right now, okay? Anyways, you can imagine John wants us to go ahead and be on the side of Jesus. You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. They are from the world and therefore speak from the viewpoint of the world, and the world listens to them. We are from God, and whoever knows God listens to us. But whoever is not from God does not listen to us. This is how we recognize the spirit of truth and the spirit of falsehood. Now, I've picked on the people that are rioting, but there are plenty of examples on all sides of the political spectrum that of people who reject God. You know, we talk about other groups that claim to be Christian, like the Mormons, but they don't accept that Jesus is God. And so this says they're really not on Jesus' side. You know, in the Jesus day, he was always arguing with the religious rulers. If they had really known their Bibles and really loved God, they would have recognized Jesus for who he was. Instead, God himself showed up as Jesus, and they didn't like him. He rubbed them the wrong way. And that's not Jesus' fault, that's their fault. Because they were in rebellion and they had adopted the spirit of Antichrist. So anyways, guys, the lesson today is we tell you a lot of things at church. We want you to learn a lot of things, and I just hope that you would not be afraid of learning, that you would get into the Bible and learn as much as you can. But there is a major, major theme. If you just want to know the one thing, don't be lazy and just want to know the one thing. But if you want to know the one theme is fall in love with Jesus. Jesus loves you. Jesus didn't show up on earth with an army and say, you've got to do what I say. He showed up as a servant, and he served everybody else, and he healed people, and he cast out the demons so the demons would leave people alone, and he raised a little girl from the dead, and he raised his friend Lazarus from the dead, and he suffered and died for we who were his enemies, we selfish, sinful human beings, and he died for us. Now, who do you know that would die for you? Maybe you can think of someone, but that list is probably pretty short. And then, you know, who knows if they really would or not, but Jesus did. Jesus loves you. So item number 1 on the list, fall in love with Jesus. If you think the Old Testament is full of way too many stories and facts and figures to remember, read the Gospels. Pick Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, and just start reading and just get to know Jesus. And Jesus loves you, and Jesus loves your friends, and you can learn about all that other stuff. Jesus is the point of the whole Bible. So accept Jesus, believe on Jesus, worship Jesus, follow Jesus, turn your life over to Jesus. You guys have a good weekend. Join us a little bit later for worship time. Thank you.